Good morning and welcome to KUMB TV's Eyes Up Mother Brown, a special edition of Eyes Up Mother Brown, you could say, as you join us live for the UEFA Conference League round of 16 draw. We shall be with you momentarily. It's myself and Pinky live on the stream this morning. And yeah, just give us a few seconds to set up and we'll be right with you.
Can you see me there, Graham?
I can. I'm not sure everyone else can at the moment, but let me start the video. We'll get you in. There's me.
Oh, there you are. Gotcha.
And coming up right now in your usual circle. There he is. The Pink Palermo. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Yeah, and you? Yeah, it's, well, the excitement. I mean, could barely sleep last night. I mean, just look at the names. Look what we could win, you know. I mean, some of these teams, I mean, even their own mothers haven't heard of, have they? You know, they're the players, you know, whoever plays for AEK Larnaca, you know, they probably go bowling into the local pub on a Saturday night, you know, really big, you know what's, and they're all going, who, where, what, which league? Yeah. You know, and you watch them do us 2-0. Yeah, because we know it's coming, don't we? We know it's coming. We do. It's yeah. There's should we run through the possibilities? Of course, there's 16 teams left in the competition now. We've got the 8 winners of the 8 groups from the group stage before Christmas, of which West Ham United are one. And then, of course, there's 8 teams that qualified via the Europa League playoff round from last night, I believe. Pinky, do you want to take us through those teams? Of course, you've already mentioned the mighty Larnaca. Who else have we got in the pot? Okay, well, you know, from the top in terms of easy to get to, we've got Ghent, not to be confused with Genk, who we played in the Europa, of course. Yeah, the Ghent from the Belgian League. We've got Anderlecht, who we could face for a second time in this competition, which, you know, I think that would get a resounding boo from our supporters. Yeah, but easy enough to get to. You've then got Lazio down in Rome, which I think would be the fans' favourite. But a word of warning, if Roma get drawn, that game could be on the 7th, Tuesday the 7th. So I am praying like Billy-O that we do not get Lazio, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
Fiorentina, just a little way up the road, is another option, which is the city of Florence. So if you're looking for where the hell Fiorentina is, they're in Florence. And for my money, that would be the pick of the bunch. That really would be. It's a cracking city. It's a beautiful city. Yep. Loads of travel options. Then you've got Basel, which is in Switzerland. And again, Pinky's tip, if we pull Basel, is to stay just across the border in Mulhouse. It's half the price. West Ham supporters have stayed in Mulhouse before. We did it on a pre-season in Sam Allardyce's first season. So Mulhouse is not a bad town, but very handy for Basel and half the price. Then trip to Poland is the other option, Lech Poznan, which again, Poland, lots of travel options there. And then the one that really we want to avoid, because I think there's some debate as to whether or not we'd actually be allowed to go, and that would be to Sheriff in Moldova. And it's rather close to the Ukraine border, and I'm sure there'll be all sorts of Foreign and Commonwealth Office advice not to travel and things like that, which of course we would completely ignore, providing there were tickets on offer from the club. I suspect the way they'd stop that is just say there's no tickets. So just be careful before you all jump on the Wizz Air website to book flights to Moldova. There may not be any tickets for that.
Yes. Do we know if they've been playing their home fixtures at home in the Conference League up to now?
They play in a town called Chisinau, which is where the airport is. So you'd say, well, that's handy. But again, top tip from Pinky, yeah, have a look at the landing point if you're going to book your flight, because flights to that part of the world tend to land in other areas. So be very, very careful, read the website thoroughly, and be prepared for an onward journey. So if we do get tickets for there, it could be a bit of the old Steve Martin, John Candy routine, and you'd have a hell of a trip, but it's a dodgy part of the world, and I don't think the food's all that either, if I'm being honest. So, take your baked beans and what you need to survive on.
Yeah, very good. Who do you fancy, Pinky? If you had to pick one of the 8, who would be your immediate choice?
My immediate choice is Fiorentina. If they're probably the best team other than ourselves left in the competition, and if you're going to win the competition, you've got to beat the best team other than yourself. So, I think that'd be a great trip for our supporters. I'd be happy with Basel. I'd be happy with Poznan. I'd be happy with Larnaca because I have gambled and pre-booked my flight there. So,
Right.
This is the crazy thing with this competition.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, within 15 seconds of the famous West Ham getting drawn to play away in Larnaca,
yeah,
a £70 return airfare turns into a £370 return airfare.
Yes.
So you say, well, that's kind of like a 5-to-1 shot. I'll take those odds, and again, but the 2 I'd like to avoid. I'd like to avoid Anderlecht because we've already played them, and that would take a bit of shine off it. And I'd like to avoid Sheriff. I mean, normally Sheriff would be fabulous bragging rights. It's the back end of nowhere. Have you ever met anyone who's watched a game of football in Moldova? Yeah. Have you ever met anyone from Moldova? Have
Yes.
you ever met anyone who could find Moldova?
Who knows where it is?
Yeah,
I'm not sure I could actually. It's that way, but exactly where I'm not sure. We do have, Pinky, some kind of idea of the allocation numbers that would be available in the event of drawing any of these 8 sides, which we can run through quickly. I don't know if you've got that particular graphic to hand. If not, I can do it.
No. If you want to whack it up, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
so starting let's run through the 8. So we've got the 2 Belgian sides, which would give us one of the better allocations, Ghent and Anderlecht. Ghent, we would have a minimum allocation of about 1,000. It's a 20,000 capacity stadium, and Anderlecht, as we know, we'll get about 1,100 and 22,500 capacity stadium. So obviously tickets would be a huge premium for that one. The 2 Italian grounds, Lazio and the old lady Fiorentina. Lazio would give us the biggest allocation out of any of the 8 teams we could potentially draw in this round, 3,500 in a 70,000 capacity stadium. Fiorentina slightly less, 43,000 capacity stadium they play in, which would grant us around 2,150 seats for travelling fans. The remainder, it's going to be a bit tight if we draw any of these. Larnaca, already mentioned by Pinky, play in a stadium that's just over 7,300 in capacity, which would give us about 365 tickets. Pinky?
Well, I'm hearing actually that the allocation, because of segregation issues they have there, would be closer to 700. Okay. So, if you take out the bondholders that we know have passed away, and the bonds are sitting in, their widows' sort of, filing cabinet at home, that would at least accommodate all the bondholders that are breathing. Assuming, of course, that our friends in the lounges don't siphon them off.
Yes.
And this is where it starts to get tasty, should we say, in that regard, because ultimately, when it's a low enough total where you don't have to count the supporters, you can name them. Pretty soon, the ones that you've never seen at a game since God was a boy, are identifiable. And I hope the club do the right thing and give it to the correct sequence, which, as we all know, but for those that don't, bondholders, because of the deal they struck with the club, first dibs, no question. That's the deal they struck. We can argue about it, but they have a legal entitlement. Second up, away season ticket holders. Next up, I believe, are the season ticket holders with high points. And then you go down the points, then you get into members and all the way down. And nowhere does it say anything about plus the special allocation for those who just happen to have a truckload of money.
Yeah.
And are mates with David Sullivan.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely. I would like to take that a bit further, and I'd like to see, for these rounds, I'd like to see the bondholders and the away season ticket holders put in together, because I think they're certainly as deserving as you know. We've had this conversation many times, but those fans that travel around the country, like yourself, not just the country, but around Europe in the last 2 years, in my view, should be given equal dibs. You're absolutely right what you're saying, really, the legal obligations the club are under, but to my mind, the away season ticket holders are just as deserving. But anyway, that's where we are. Three other clubs we haven't looked at yet in terms of the allocation. We have Basel, of course. I've got a feeling we're going to draw a trip to Switzerland. I don't know why. It's just got a feeling. Just under 2,000 allocation for West Ham, the 38,000 capacity stadium. And the last two, Lech Poznan in Poland, 43,000 capacity stadium they play in, which grant us just over 2,100. Then finally, of course, Sheriff, who play in Moldova, the stadium there has a capacity just under 13,000, which would give West Ham around 600-700. But of course, as Pinky rightfully says, we don't know if that's where the game will be played. Almost certainly not, actually. But anyway, what we can tell you is that the UEFA stream is underway. So it looks like we're about to find out very soon who the Hammers are going to draw in the last 16. Let's have a quick look. I did ask some of you guys if you fancied. Let us know who you fancy for the draw. Danny Harris also saying feeling the trip to Basel inbound. And anyone else let us know what you think. Good morning from Kosovo, says Rebby5762, one of our foreign followers. Yeah, enjoy the stream along with us. We're about to find out who West Ham are going to draw. It's the two ties. Well, we can tell you the remaining dates for all the rounds, but these two ties are scheduled. Pinky says might not necessarily be the case given who is drawn when in this competition and the other European competitions. But the two legs of the round of 16 for the Conference League are currently scheduled for the 9th and 16th of March. The quarterfinals the following month, 13th and 20th of April. The semi-finals, the 11th and 18th of May. So that will be FA Cup final week. Who knows? Could be involved in that as well. And then the final, an incredibly late 7th of June at the Eden Arena, Prague in the Czech Republic. Who do you fancy to end up in the final, Pinky, out of the 16?
Who's going all the way?
Who do you reckon?
West Ham United.
Yes.
So we'll be there. And I fancy of the other teams that are in it, I'd look at maybe Nice as a good chance of going in there. But the fabulous draw, I guess, would be AZ Alkmaar if they could make it to the final. Could you imagine a whole raft of West Ham United supporters and a whole raft of AZ Alkmaar Dutch supporters descending on Prague to a stadium that's smaller than my back garden? You know, I mean, who decides where they're putting these finals and all the rest of it? I mean, it's not even the biggest ground in Prague, you know, so not only are tickets going to be at a premium for this round because of some of the allocations, there's every chance that between now and the final, up into and including, there's going to be all the arguments about I've been going since 1804. You know, I've not actually been for 30 years, but surely I deserve something for what I did back before the war.
Yes.
So all of those arguments will get trotted out. But you know, dare I say it, I've covered myself for most of what I call the Central European games in this one. I take the precaution of being in Frankfurt on business for the 2 days beforehand, the Monday, the Tuesday of that week. So quite luckily that I just managed to organise that.
How fortunate.
And how fortunate that I could then get to, say, Berlin and on to Poznan by rail, Basel by rail, Milan by rail. You know, if you think about these things, you know,
the luck of some people, it's amazing.
Just, you know,
should we just look at those other 8 teams, Pinky? We've got the 8 group winners in addition to the 8 clubs we've already mentioned. You've got Istanbul, Basaksehir, Obviously, the Turkish club, West Ham won Group B, as we know, maximum points, 18 out of 18. Villarreal, got to be one of the hot favourites to go all the way as well.
You wouldn't want to play them. You wouldn't want to
no,
play
absolutely
them.
not. Absolutely
They'll be
not.
decent.
Absolutely not. And then, of course, sorry, Pingy, go on.
Yeah, I was saying, if they would be a team that would grace the final in much the same way that we would.
Yeah.
Djurgården, I'd quite like to get them somewhere along the road. A nice trip to Stockholm.
Yes.
And again, you know, 5,000 or 6,000 West Ham United all doing the ABBA Museum at the same time. Yeah, you know, all that kind of thing. So, there's some nice places there. I mean, watching the games last night, what have you, just praying that Karabag got knocked out. You know, I mean,
Karabag.
Yeah, you're looking at it and you're going, you can't do the Billy Big Boots routine. And then when it turns out to be Karabag away, say, well, I'm busy that day. You know, for 7 hours on a plane to a country you definitely couldn't find on a map. So we've had some good fortune, but
we have.
You know, there are 3 or 4 teams in this who I think would be very respectable competitors in the higher competition in the Europa League.
Yeah.
I
mean, in addition to the clubs we've mentioned there, you mentioned Nice, who obviously got some very good players, looking very, very strong this year. You mentioned you felt they might go all the way. I kind of agree with you on that one. Alkmaar, of course, you've mentioned. Djurgården, of course, another team you mentioned there. Home club of Lost Hammer, a former KUMB moderator who's been in Sweden for many years. So I'm sure he'd be delighted to draw West Ham and have 10 of us at least looking to bunk up on his sofa for a couple of nights. Group G winners were Sivasspor, and finally Slovan Bratislava, the winners of Group H, beating Basel to first spot in that group on well, it wasn't goal difference, was it? It's the 2 games against each other, just getting automatic qualification. So some good sides, I think you've got to say. Yeah, I think we're looking at Nice, Villarreal, Lazio, West Ham, possibly as the top 4. Maybe the 4 biggest clubs or the 4 favourites, Fiorentina maybe as well in with a shout there. But it's going to be an interesting, certainly not as easy as a lot of people have been making out. There's going to be, from now on, any tie pretty much is going to be tough.
I mean, it's a cup competition. Every team that remains in it has earned the right to be in it. You know, they've beaten teams to get this far. So the idea that we're just going to rock up and beat any of these 7 or 8-0, it isn't going to happen. It isn't going to happen. You know, these will be games that will be won or lost by a maximum of 1 or 2 goal margin.
Yeah.
And before we get too full of ourselves, they'll be looking at our league position. Every one of these clubs, and they'll be looking at our priority. Might be elsewhere, and just a special mention, if I may, to KUMB poster Billy Bond's boots. Who, I don't know if you've seen it yet, Graham, but I've suggested that we rename him. Yeah, because
not fit to lace, wasn't it?
Well, not fit to lace. I mean, come on. I mean, this is a shot at a trophy. We're 3 or 4 wins away from some silverware. Yeah. However, should we say, unpolished that silverware may be compared with what we've won at other occasions in our history, but you take it, because after 42 years, or 43 years, what else can you do?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's a strange one that I think, to be fair, I think he was a lone voice, wasn't he, in regards to that particular opinion. I think Chav summed it up brilliantly for me, actually, in that phrase, when he said about, it doesn't matter who we play. Obviously, he'd like to get easier matches, but what an opportunity for him to get to the final and watch it with his father, something they've never been able to do before. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's, as much as we want to be playing Premier League football again next season, surely the priority is to win trophies. As he said, you don't remember a season in which you finished 17th and stayed up by the skin of your teeth. What you do remember is, a glorious run to a cup competition, something, of course, that West Ham haven't done for 43 years now, isn't it? 43 years. Should just point out, actually, talking about the FA Cup, the final, as Noam has pointed out in chat, is in June, at the start of June this year. So if we were to get to 2 finals, improbable, I know, but not impossible, they would be within a few days of each other. So long way away yet, but there you go, just confirmation of that. We're still waiting for the draw to take place, by the way, hence why we're chatting on. But looks like we're about to begin very, very soon. So yeah, the balls will be warming up as we speak.
On the topic of UEFA and all the rest of it, and do you ever wonder what all their massive staff do all day? I mean, I'm looking at this. These are, largely faceless people with the odd former great footballer chucked in. And you're looking at this, and is it any wonder you've got some clubs dotted around Europe who are thinking, we can cut out all those bureaucrats and all the cost of it, yes, and just transfer the cash for ourselves?
Yeah.
And I just wonder sometimes if UEFA and FIFA, lack any kind of self-awareness about how they look to the people that they're there actually to serve, rather than that the clubs are there to serve them. And I think sometimes you look at this and thinking it's all a bit over the top, isn't it? I mean, it could just be done in a TV studio 30 seconds after a game and, Joe Blogg's ground or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's done and dusted. But now it's got to be a big event with hundreds of people attending. I don't get it.
I think there might actually be more UEFA officials there than club officials looking at this. I was saying that it's not the largest auditorium that we've seen for an event like this, but in terms of UEFA self-awareness, I think you only have to go back to Infantino's speech during the World Cup in Qatar, the infamous "Today I am gay, today I am," and all that malarkey to assess where they are.
I can assure you, today I am hoping we avoid Sheriff away. Yeah. Yes. Okay, and Anderlecht. So there you go. So yeah. Today I am not Anderlecht.
Yes, I mean, least preferential. I mean, you've mentioned Sheriff, possibly the two Italian clubs in terms of quality. Nice. I mean, that's going to be a nice trip to France once again if we get through
the next round, and let's not kid ourselves. Teams that could do us, that we could be drawn against here now. Basel will not roll over.
Yeah,
Fiorentina will not roll over. Lazio won't roll over. There's three there that you could say, do you know what? They'd look at us and go, yeah, we would have a crack at them. So let's not kid ourselves that we've got to buy to the next round. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Basel, they're actually having a pretty poor season in the Super League. They're sixth at the moment in that 10-team division. So they're 20 points behind leaders Young Boys at the moment. So they're not having a superb season themselves. Serie A, Lazio currently fifth, 42 points from 23 games. Fiorentina, similar position at West Ham, 25 points from 23 games, way down in 14th. There's still 8 points off the bottom three, but not having a great season. So quite a few teams in there not doing particularly well. But the draw is beginning. We have a ball in the hands of a UEFA official. Let's see what it is. The excitement begins now. Let's have a look. It's the first ball. It's one of the black balls. Not sure who the official is.
Larnaca. But it's Larnaca.
It's Larnaca. AEK Larnaca. There you go. The Cypriot team. Now, we'd like this one, wouldn't we? We'd like.
Come on, West Ham. Come on. Come on.
Here we go. Over to the white balls. The group winners, white balls. Let's hope this is a claret and blue coloured ball inside. What have we got?
Yes!
I think you can tell from Pinky's reaction that West Ham have been drawn out to Larnaca. And this is the man who's already booked his trip there. What about that, eh? What about that?
The rest of you, don't bother buying the lottery ticket tonight because I'm going to win that as well.
I've got to go. I've got to make a phone call. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'll Fiorentina. Anyway, next out of the hat. Another team qualifying from the last round. Now, of course, if they draw Lazio or if they draw another Italian team, they'll have to go back in the hat. Are there any Italian teams that qualified automatically? No, there wasn't, so it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. Sivasspor of Turkey, that would be an interesting tie. Sivasspor, the Turks, of course, the winners of Group G, which included CFR Cluj, Slavia Prague, and Balkani. Sivasspor winning that group by 1 point, beating Cluj with 3 wins, 2 draws, and 1 defeat. They will face Fiorentina in the round of 16. Who's next, Pinky? We got next?
Lazio.
And there you go. So, Lazio, the other Serie A side, as we just said a few moments ago, Lazio doing well in Serie A this season. 12 wins, 6 draws, 5 defeats out there, 23 games, 42 points, 20 points behind leaders Napoli, but looking good for another spot in Europe. They will face, drum roll,
AZ Alkmaar.
Oh, that's going to be a good tie. AZ Alkmaar of the Dutch league. Yeah, that's a very, very interesting. The Eredivisie, of course. Alkmaar currently 3rd behind Feyenoord and Ajax in the league, only 5 points behind leaders.
Lech Poznan.
So there it is, Lech Poznan coming out next. And Pinky, they will be facing one of the Belgian teams, perhaps.
Djurgårdens, IF Djurgårdens of Stockholm.
So there you go. The Poles versus the Swedes. One for you, Lost Hammer. That'll be an interesting tie. No clear winner out of that one. So we're halfway through the draw. At the moment, we've got AEK Larnaca versus West Ham United, Fiorentina versus Sivasspor of Turkey, Lazio versus Alkmaar, Lech Poznan versus Djurgården. Next up, we have Pinky.
We have FC Basel.
Okay, so there you go. The Swiss side, the only Swiss side left in the competition. They will be at home in the first leg. Who will they be facing of the group winners? Who have we got left? We've got Villarreal, Nice, Basak Sahia, and Bratislava. I think I saw a B there.
Bratislava it is.
Yep, Bratislava. Basel versus Bratislava.
There's one to set the pulse racing if you're a Basel fan.
Yes. Decent draw. Okay, 3 to go. 3 teams from each side left. Fantastic draw for West Ham, of course. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Next up, Pinky, we have
Sheriff. So FC Sheriff from Tiraspol.
The place nobody wants to go to. They will face either Nice.
Villarreal, you just know it is. Oh,
yep.
The live stream has just gone down on my screen.
Oh, has it? Okay, I'll assuming mine stays up, I'll keep you informed. Sheriff Tiraspol will face Nice of France. There you go.
I was going to say, my stream's just restarted and suddenly withdrawn Sheriff away.
Yes, they've scrapped it. That was just a practice run. 4 teams left. Pinky, you back on live?
I am, yeah.
Okay, over to you.
Okay, and we've got Anderlecht.
And let's, of course, the Belgian side West Ham faced earlier in the competition, currently 9th in the Pro League versus.
And they will play Villarreal.
Okay. Villarreal. Yeah.
Only one winner of that time, I'm afraid.
Yeah, looking good for the Spanish. Villarreal currently 9th in La Liga, 9 wins, 9 defeats, 4 draws from their 22 games so far. The last draw coming out of the hat. Pinky, over to you.
Ghent will play Istanbul.
That's it. So there you go. Yeah, draws. Round of 16. Let's run through them very, very quickly, and then we'll have a reaction from Pinky to each one. Fiorentina will face Sivasspor. Lazio of Serie A at home to AZ Alkmaar of the Eredivisie. Lech Poznan of the Polish League against Djurgårdens, the Swedish side. FC Basel, the Swiss team versus Bratislava. Sheriff Tiraspol will face Nice of Liga. Anderlecht of the Pro League will face Villarreal of La Liga. Ghent, also of the Pro League, will face Istanbul, the second Turkish side in the competition. Of course, the very first draw out of the hat, the one we're going to talk about first. AEK Larnaca versus West Ham United FC. Pinky, couldn't have been a better draw for us, could it?
It's a 5-hour flight near us, damn it, into Larnaca from Gatwick, if you can get on that easy check plane. You know, which I suspect if you're booking now, you won't, because they'll all be gone. But, you know, you've got to be happy with that. If you're David Moyes, you've got to be happy with that as a draw. And even if you're David Sullivan, there'll be a very substantial Cypriot population, expat population living in the UK, a great many of whom I'm sure would be welcoming to the London Stadium, and give them a big night out in our athletics crowd. Because I'm not sure if there are many famous Cypriot athletes. I know the Greeks were quite big and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know if they exported it as far as Cyprus. But no, I mean, that's a great time for us. I'm just looking down, doing an ACCA, as you do, and I'm going. My ACCA for the last 8 is as follows:
Okay,
Istanbul, Villarreal, West Ham United, AZ Alkmaar, Fiorentina, Basel, IF2 Gardens, and Nice. So when you start looking at that and you're going, and we're all talking about, we've all booked our flights and hotels for Prague, haven't we? Because if you haven't, it's going to cost you money. There's some teams there, assuming we get through Larnaca, that,
no easy games, as they say.
There's no easy games there. There's no one there that you'd say, do you know what, we'll absolutely do them. So we're into the sharp end of the competition now, which is where we want to be. I'm not bothered about fixture pile-ups and injury lists and all the rest of it. The manager's got a squad. We've barely seen Manuel Lanzini, in the last 6 months. We've hardly seen Pablo Fornals. Danny Ings isn't getting that many minutes. Lucas Scamacca hasn't played that often. I could go on and on. Aaron Cresswell, I think has been kidnapped and has sort of been held by some sort of Colombian drug gangs or something. It's so long since we've seen him.
Yes.
So people worried about a lack of players or a lack of depth in our squad. A reminder, the club did invest £155 million last summer. So for all the years we've caned our chairman for not putting his hand in the club's pocket, he did it last summer. So I'm not prepared to listen to any excuses about we haven't got the depth, we haven't got enough players, concentrate on survival. That's complete balderdash as far as I'm concerned. We're 3 games away from a major European final. And for my money, I'll put all of our effort into winning this, because if we win this competition, we're in Europe again next year. It's our only route to Europe.
Yes, indeed. It's you can pretty much rule out, I think, qualification via the league now. That's for sure. But it's just interesting, actually, Pinky, looking at your ACCA there. I mean, kind of in agreement with most of it. I think the only one I'd take issue with is Lazio versus Alkmaar. Interested to know why you fancy the Dutch over Lazio, who are, of course, the informed team out of the 2 remaining Italian sides in the competition.
Frankly, because I'd rather play Alkmaar than Lazio.
That's good enough reason for me. Works for me.
It's. But you could flip either of those in a coin and say either of those 2 sides will give us a heck of a game in the next round. So we really are, when we get into the last stage of this competition. There's probably there's no one in my name date who I'd say that I'd put a week's pay on us beating. There's no one you'd have down as a banker. So we're for a much maligned competition. When it gets to this stage, it has some legitimacy, because any one of those other 7 that I've named could knock us out. Sure. And indeed, so could Larnaca if we turn up there with the wrong attitude. So it's a good tie for us. I mean, for this round, it's a great tie. But the way the draw has worked, I think the hill's going to get incredibly steep from the next round. And we need to be prepared for that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm just looking at, as we say, we'll just run through those 8 teams again that we fancy for the next round. West Ham, of course, you'd expect. I think that's particularly any inherent bias going on there, but you would expect them to be able to overcome Larnaca. Fiorentina, Lazio or Alkmaar, we're kind of on the fence, I think, on that one a little bit. Djurgårdens, Basel, Nice, France, Villarreal and Istanbul. So I guess, I mean, you don't like to kind of look ahead, but that's the point of these streams, I guess, to do things like that. You would probably be looking to avoid Fiorentina, the winners of Lazio and Alkmaar, Nice and Villarreal, and perhaps be looking for the winners of perhaps the Ghent versus Istanbul tie, or even the Basel versus Bratislava tie. Would that be fair to say? If you were picking an ideal last 8 opponent? Yeah.
Yeah, if I could pick anyone of that last 8 for footballing reasons that I'm looking at, it would be Basel.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, be a nice trip as well.
You know, but you never know. And as I say, you know, we're sitting in the dizzy heights of 17th at the minute. We've got a relegation 6-pointer tomorrow, and you know, the clubs, you know, the managers of the clubs that are looking, you know, they're doing their racket for the next round. They'll be sitting there going, do you know what? That West Ham, you know, they're beatable. They're beatable. You know, if you score an early goal, get their own fans on their back and all the rest of it.
Yep.
So we're going to need to up our game in terms of support. You know, Larnaca isn't going to set too many pulses racing at the London Stadium from our support, which is a shame. For my money, it's a shame.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about clubs like maybe Villarreal pitching up, maybe an AZ Alkmaar, maybe a Djurgårdens, maybe a Nice. You know, Nice, the interesting one, owned by the British businessman, isn't it? Jim Ratcliffe, isn't it? That's his club at the minute.
I take your word for it. I'm not entirely sure, but of course they recently signed Moffey, who was a player that we were very, very keen on signing. So they've got some quality players down there.
And you know, it was at Melvin Bard as well that we looked at. You know, the left back. So you know, they've got some players, all of them. I think, you know, you'd say next round could be hard, but focus on this one first of all.
Absolutely.
You know, a 3-day run to Larnaca this time of year, a bit of sun on our backs. You know, I bet there's not a single player that reports injured that week.
No, you're right.
You know,
just I'm looking at the Cypriot league. I mean, you know, it's not obviously not the strongest league in Europe. Larnaca are currently topping that table. They've only lost 4 games all season so far, so you know it might be a different quality, but there's certainly a team that's used to winning, and as we know, that morale breeds confidence. They've won 17 out of their 24 games so far this season, scored 42 goals, so they know where the net is, that's for sure.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, every team still in this competition has earned the right to be there because they've had to beat other teams to still be in it. You know, that's the long and the short of it. But you know, let's just look at ourselves. West Ham United, we play in the English Premier League. We've got a budget that Larnaca could only fantasize about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've got a squad packed full of internationals who can't get into the match day 11. Yeah. Are we really saying that we're going to fear Larnaca? Because, you know, yes, show them respect. I'm not suggesting we're going to go there and win 30-0 or anything like that.
Yeah.
But we need to go there with a mindset that says, be professional, work hard, follow the manager's instructions, score 2 goals away from home, put the tie to bed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. End of. Yeah. And you know, because if we can't turn up at Larnaca believing we can win, then you know, just stick us in the Championship now. because if we can't believe we can beat Larnaca, talk me through how we're going to win at Manchester City in a month or Manchester United next week.
Yes, indeed. They've actually had a very long season, Larnaca. It began in the Champions League last July. You're still not scaring me.
You're still not scaring me.
Well, they faced Midtjylland, I think, are a Danish club, aren't they? They drew 1-1 away from home in the first leg, and the second leg was also 1-1, but they were knocked out on penalties. So from that point, they were put into the Europa League third qualifying round. At which point they beat Partizan 2-1 at home, drew 2-2 away, so went through 4-3 on aggregate. Then they faced Dnipro, winning 2-1 away from home and winning 3-0 in the second leg, so winning comfortably 5-1 on aggregate in that one. That was a result that put them into the Europa League group stage. Fortunately, they didn't fare quite so well in that. Beaten in their first game at home to Rennes of Liga, lost 2-1. They won actually in Dynamo Kiev in their second game, 1-0. Third game was a 2-0 defeat at Fenerbahce. The fourth game, they went down 2-1 at home to the Turkish side before drawing 3-3 at home with Kiev and drawing 1-1 in Rennes. So it wasn't the worst performance. It was enough to see them finish third and be put into the pot for a playoff spot. So, you know, they've drawn in France against Rennes, a decent side. You know, beat Dnipro. So they've pulled out a couple of results. They're not going to be as easy as you might sort of look at that on paper and think, you know, it's another, oh, dare I say it, it's another, I forgot the name now, Kajagoogoo. I'm thinking Kajagoogoo. You know what I mean? Who do I mean? Astrogurgu, yeah, of course.
Well,
yeah.
I hope Larnaca have paid attention to what's happened to them.
Yes.
Since the curse of West Ham has been placed upon them.
That's what happens when
you know, it's not just Astrogurgu. Sheffield United still sinking like a stone. You know, cross us, yeah. Well, that's who knows what could happen? But I mean, they're not a pub team. I think the point you're making there is they're not a pub team. They're a professional football club, yeah, and they've got players there that they believe that they are good footballers, and they are. They are good footballers.
Yeah. Yes,
but
indeed.
In football, there's degrees of goodness, aren't there? And you know, whilst no one's given them an absolute leathering in any competition this season, they haven't played a club from the English Premier League or the top 3 or 4 clubs in Spain or Italy, or even France or Germany.
Yeah,
you know, one of the big 5 leagues. And I think we really ought to be in a position to say, look, we're different gravy here, lads. Because if you can't do that with a squad that is hundreds of millions of pounds worth of purchases and over 100 million a year of wage bill, yeah, then we may as well just pack up. And you know, and if everyone's looking at this in 3 weeks' time and we'll be knocked out by Larnaca and they're all actually sending me hate mail, well, okay, I'll open them and read them. But the truth of the matter is, if we're going nervously to Larnaca, well, don't bother going outside your front door anymore.
Yeah,
because there's no point.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Question asked about dates being confirmed. Yes, it looks like the club is saying it's definitely the 9th and the 16th of March for the 2 ties. Kickoff times are going to be confirmed by UEFA at 5 p.m. GMT this afternoon. So we'll bring you news of that. Keep an eye on the homepage on kumb.com. We will bring you news of the times, exact times and dates of those fixtures as soon as they're released at 5 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to call it a day there, chaps, because we're going to move on to David Moyes' press conference for tomorrow's game against Nottingham Forest. Massive game, of course, for West Ham United, that fixture. One bit of news before we go, Pinky. The draw for the under-18s FA Cup semi-final has been made. We can tell you that West Ham will face Preston North End or Southampton at home in the semi-final of that competition. So a quick word about the 18s, Pinky. I mean, Kevin Keane doing a fantastic job. What a season they're having.
Absolutely, and you know, did very well the other night. And you look at it and you go, does the club publicise these games enough? Do they really push and promote them enough? Yeah. And what better way to actually salute that age band within the club than actually saying, do you know what, it's going to be on the main pitch at home, yeah, stick it in the London Stadium, and if you wanted kids for a quid night, Karen, that's your game. That's your game, yeah. You know, just do it to make some money on hot. Although we can't do that, can we? But you know, get a good crowd there. Butt in the school kids if need be. Give your free tickets to every local school if need be, but give those young players a heck of a crowd, because on that basis, whether it's Preston North End or whether it's Saints, we'll beat them. So yeah, great stuff.
Yep. Excellent. Okay, we're going to leave it there. We'll be back tomorrow for an Eyes Up Mother Brown live stream from the London Olympic Stadium. West Ham United, of course, taking on Nottingham Forest in a huge Premier League 6-pointer. Pinky, just before we go, thoughts on that? What do you reckon?
It's must win. I mean, there's no ifs, buts, or maybes.
Yeah,
we're in that stage of the season now. We are starting to run out of games, and so you get fewer and fewer games where you even think you've got a realistic chance of winning.
Yeah.
But tomorrow is it. Forest are dreadful away from home. Steve Cooper has done a magnificent job there, and thoroughly deserved the support of the Forest fans that he got earlier in the season when it looked like he was heading for the chopping block. The Forest fans made it clear to their club's owners, not on your life, he stays. Yeah. And Cooper's rewarded them now. I think they've got 23 points, something like that. So they'll come for a point because they'll know a point is good for them. Mm-hmm. We've got to get on that pitch tomorrow and say it's death or glory. And this isn't a pop at David Moyes or anything like that. Get some strikers on the pitch, change the balance of the team and say, do you know what? Shed one defensive-minded player, get someone forward attacking player on the field is win. And you've got to have that winning approach from the minute one. Mm-hmm. If we go into it with a keep it tight for 70 minutes and then hope that Benny and Ings drag us out of a hole in the last 20, they're not going to. Yeah. It's get on there from minute one. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to see Antonio, Ings and Scamacca all featuring tomorrow, all of them on there. And dare I say it, 2 of the 3 on the pitch at any point in time from the first minute. And I'd like to see them all feature because we need goals.
Yep, certainly do. I mean, and word is, of course, that Danny Ings is primed to start tomorrow. We don't know if that's with Antonio or with Scamacca, or with even both, who knows? But so that's the news we've got so far. We will, of course, be confirming that this afternoon when David Moyes speaks to the media. Might be doing it now, actually. No, I think we're a little early. Should be. It's usually about 1:30 when he briefs the press for the Saturday game. So stick on KUMB.com this afternoon. We'll be bringing you all the news and all the updates live from David Moyes' press conference. As we said, tomorrow, Eyes Up Mother Brown, West Ham United, Nottingham Forest, huge game. And then, of course, it's Manchester United in the coming up in the FA Cup very soon. Didn't they play well last night? Absolutely fantastic performance against Barcelona. Yes, absolutely outstanding.
For that game, I'm not suggesting Ings, Scamacca and Antonio. For that game, I think I'll take every defender we've got on the field. And yes. But no, I mean, again, Old Trafford away. What have we got to lose?
Yeah.
What have we got to lose?
Nothing. Exactly nothing. It's a cup.
And we're taking 6,000 up there, and quite fortuitously. I mean, Manchester on business the first couple of days next week. So
again, this is amazing stuff. Unbelievable.
How lucky is that?
How do you do it?
But chuck everything at Man United because we're a proper football club as well.
Yeah.
Who says there's a law that says you've got to go up for Manchester United and quaking in your boots? Mm-hmm. Why not go up there and say, do you know what? We're West Ham and we've won some decent competitions in our time. Have a go at us now. Yeah.
Of course. Recent history, we won the last cup tie there in 1-0, wasn't it, last season? In the Carabao Cup before we beat Man City on penalties. Anyway, that's it from us. So my thanks to Pinky for joining me on this special lunchtime live stream for the UEFA Conference League draw. West Ham United will face AEK Larnaca of Cyprus in the round of 16. What a tie. Pinky's going to be there. I'm going to see if I can get a flight myself now. 5 hours or so. What a wonderful trip away that could be. Sam K, just very quickly before we go, I do hope we answered your question. You did ask who we felt, if we felt West Ham could win the competition. I think we kind of touched on that when looking at the potential last 8 of the tournament. So hopefully that was good enough for you. We shall see you all again very soon. Thank you to everyone for joining us on the live stream, for your comments and for getting involved. As I said, get onto KUMB, onto the general discussion forum for all the latest news from David Moyes' press conference and more from the fallout from today's Conference League draw. See you all again very soon, everybody. Take care. And until then,